Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, and today we have a different kind of Gone with the Wind lamp. Now, your basic Gone with the Wind lamp is an electric lamp that is in this style, has this big bowl in the bottom, and then it'll have another bowl at the top and a kerosene lamp type chimney that comes up through it. The owner of this lamp has all of that stuff, but I wouldn't let her leave it here because I don't want to be responsible for that kind of glass. Now, the electric ones that they've been selling since, well, basically since the movie Gone with the Wind, have an electric nightlight in the base and a bulb up top and a switch so that you could turn on the bulb or the nightlight or both together. What makes this different? This is a real oil lamp. It's been converted to electric sometime back in the past. We've got this socket here, and they've even gone to the trouble of installing two nightlight sockets in the base. The problem is they only have one switch right here, and it turns all the lights on at the same time. And what I want to do is not only rewire it, because this stuff is quite old, but also figure out some way to make it light up like all the other Gone with the Wind lamps. As electrical conversions of this kind of lamp go, this is not a bad one. Certainly safe. I have seen some that were a hazard to people and pets, but this is not bad at all. I'm going to replace the old shell socket with a type called the hickey socket. And because of the different shape, I'm also going to have a slightly longer piece of pipe, but that's no real problem. Now, all the work here at the lab, the nuts, the threads, the studs, and that sort of thing, I always use the blue thread sealer on. That allows me to get them nice and snug without having to tighten them so hard that something breaks or bends. And that blue thread sealer will keep everything nice and tight throughout the rest of the life of this lamp. Now, one advantage of working with a hickey socket is that the socket comes off the hickey. This little bracket right here is called a hickey. An electrical hardware, anything that holds two pieces apart from each other or holds them in position is called a hickey. I really don't know why. Maybe invented by Lorenzo J. Hickey. Could be. The advantage of a hickey socket is it will let me wire the socket before I have to actually install it. Now, one important part of any good lamp repair is known as tinning the wires. These wires come in multi-strands, and if you put them under a screw, is that instead of when you go to tighten it down, they will spread out like this. You have all these little loose strands of wire. It's entirely possible for one of these to actually touch the metal shell. I've had people bring lamps into me before and said it shocked me. And when I take it apart, I find a situation like that. To prevent that from happening, the ends of the wires are tinned. And that means a little bit of solder is put on the end of each wire. And that prevents it from splaying out like that when it's tightened down under the screw. Makes a good, safe connection. Not only is this a good idea, this is also dictated by the National Electrical Code, which gives you the safe procedure for every kind of possible wiring problem in the world. Now, all wire made for lamps, which is to say the Siamese twin double light wire like this, has one side where the insulation is smooth, you can feel it, and the other side has a ridge on it. And the reason for that is so you can keep track of which wire goes where. The smooth wire always goes under the brass colored screw. You wrap it around so that it's pointing clockwise, and that way when you tighten it down, it draws the wire in tighter instead of pushing it out. And now I could pull it down like this. And the little screw that holds the socket to the hickey, put it back together. Now ordinarily this would be down inside the lamp, inside the socket or whatever. But in this case, I can put it together on the bench, which makes it just a little bit easier. The way the night lights were made in the original is they were inside here, and you had to completely disassemble the lamp if you want to change a bulb. What I want to do is attach them like this, and then it'll be a simple matter to get a bulb out whenever it needs to be replaced. I put these screws in from this side so they'll stick out the bottom. And the reason for that is so that the night lights themselves will be held in with these wing nuts, like this. And that means is if you do have to change a light bulb, you don't have to get out any kind of tools, screwdriver or whatever. It's the sort of thing that makes people stop and say, what sort of sorcery is this? Which is good for business. Now we begin the assembly. Careful again to get my front with the base and the glass lined up. I've installed a 3-wire switch, which will sit here to the right side. And the next problem I've got is that this wire for the main lamp has to go through one of these holes in this bulb, and that's not a safe situation. So one of the little details that makes a difference when you're rewiring a lamp, especially one that's not a manufactured piece, you got to be very careful about sharp edges. And I have these, what they're called cord bushings, and they are made to go on these kinds of holes and protect the wire where it goes through. Normally you would have these on the base of the lamp where the main power cord comes through, but in this case the wire is going to go through the pierce work here, and won't have to worry about that sort of thing. The real problem at this point is working with this lamp with this bowl of glass, which you don't want to break, because that pretty much makes the whole operation pointless if you do that. Now, I have made this little table here, which will give me a stable work surface, and it sits on nice and neat, and I've got much less chance of this rolling off the table if I happen to lose my grip on it. Even though this seems like there's a lot of wires in here, the final wiring of the lamp is simple and pretty straightforward. I've got my nightlight sockets in place with the bulbs in them, just like I like them. Make sure they're nice and clear, nothing's touching the glass or anything like that. So that's good to go. Now I've trimmed all the wires to the length and the size I want. And the first thing to do is to put in the cord. And the important part of that is that it needs to be secured to the frame of the lamp. Now in a regular lamp, there would be a knot at the bottom of the cord, at the bottom of the socket, which would prevent the cord from being jerked out if someone were to trip and kick it. We don't have that kind of a socket in this one, so I just simply put a overhand knot like that, and I can later adjust to the right length. Now I have all the wires cut and trimmed to the length I want them to be, and since I'm working with so many white wires here, one side being ridged, the other side being smooth, I've painted the smooth side black. That just makes it much easier for me to see what I'm doing, and I don't get the wires confused. Now, first thing to do, you find the rigid wire on your lamp cord, and you find the rigid wire on all of the sockets. This is the wire from the main bulb up on top. Here are my two nightlight bulbs. Twist them in place. I have this one, and I'm going to run it under the strap, which will make it just a little bit easier later on to hide all these wires. And I have them twisted together. And I like to take the pliers and give it just a little bit more of a twist. And that leaves me with the rest of these. Now, on the switch, three-way switch with 3 wires, the black wire goes to the smooth wire on the cord. And again, I'm running it under here, which will save me trouble later on when I have to tuck all these wires back up. And this gets twisted together. That leaves us with the red wire and the blue wire. Now, the red wire, I'm going to attach it to the smooth side of the main lamp wire. And the remaining wires are my nightlight sockets, and both of them go to the blue wire. Now what this is going to do, one position is going to be off, of course. One position is going to turn on the main bulb. One position is going to turn on the 2 nightlight sockets alone, and then one position is going to turn on all lights at the same time. So, our next step is to solder all these connections together. In the Secret Underground Laboratory, all connections are soldered. We don't depend on wire nuts or just twisting it together or anything like that. That's not a satisfactory way to wire a lamp. And now I have 4 connections to make. After it cools a little bit, run your fingers over each connection and make sure there's no little wires sticking out or little pinpoints. If you feel anything sharp, just take a pair of pliers and give it a little squeeze. This is all pretty soft, so it shouldn't be a problem. Now, to cover these connections, I use shrink wrap, which is a peculiar kind of plastic, which when it gets hot, it shrinks. And just gather the wires together. They make this stuff in different sizes if you've got multiple wires. Take my little miniature torch here and just heat it up, and it draws down. Then I take a little short piece. Well, I'm not chasing that. Another little short piece. Fold it over and just slide that down on top of it. And heat that. And it's pretty well sealed. And just continue on and do the rest of them the same way. The last little bit of overkill on this job is a zip tie to keep all these wires tucked up in here nice and tight inside the lamp. So, this is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, and I thank you for sticking all the way to the end of this video. Appreciate it very much if you would click the thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you again in the next video. And thank you so much.